Zab, wanna tell us about how it felt to pass a kidney stone? You've had a great week.
Way to lean into the crone. This is what aging is like.
Yeah.
How is passing your
Yeah.
kidney stone going?
Exactly. Guess what you
It
get to
was
look forward to.
so painful. It was so painful, and I didn't know what was happening. It was quite an adventure. I got up in the morning, my, like, left side was hurting a little bit, and every half an hour, it got worse and worse and worse and worse
Oh,
and worse. And I called an online doctor, and they thought maybe I had a bladder infection, so I got a prescription for that. And my husband was gonna go pick it up, and I'm like, "No, you gotta take me to the hospital, man." Like, at that point, I was, like, pacing, like, I couldn't and we're, like,
oh,
racing to emergency, and all of a sudden, all my limbs go numb, and I'm like,
Oh my
"Okay,
god.
like, something's not right." So we, like, pull into a fire station, and they're having some sort of, like, conference there, and all these firefighters come out, and they put me on oxygen. They're like, "She's going into
Oh
shock,"
my
and I'm like,
god.
"What is happening?" Like, like, I couldn't
oh
even
my God. Way
think.
to be dramatic about it. That's amazing.
I know, right? I
No
couldn't it
kidding.
was so insane. And then, like, it took, like, 30 minutes for the ambulance to get there, and by the time the ambulance got there, things started to get better, and I'm like, "Am I, like, crazy?" Like, that was because they're like, "What's, on a scale of 1 to 10, where's your pain?" I'm like, "A 10." Like, and I've been through some shit, like, I
Oh,
know pain,
Yeah, you got
and,
some
not to
tolerance.
mention 2 births, but there's been other things, but that's a tale for another day.
yeah.
Yeah, so, I got an ambulance ride to the hospital, and I got a CT scan. And after the CT scan, I felt really sick. And so I told the tech who was wheeling me back, I'm like, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up. And so he wheels over and he grabs me a garbage can, and I like heave into this garbage can as he's
Oh,
wheeling me by all these
Oh
people. And
god.
I was
That's
like, it
horrible.
was horrible. And then I got wheeled into my room, and then, yeah, the doctor came in a little later. And by then everything was
Wow.
good. I was on morphine. I was like, okay, not feeling any
but
pain.
did it
And
pass? Like,
yeah, no,
did the kidney stone
no.
pass, or is that just like you get to experience that joy repeatedly for a bit?
Well, apparently it's through the most painful channel. It's right at the juncture to my bladder. So once it's in your bladder, apparently it's not as painful, probably until you have to, squeeze it out your
Is it out?
urethra. But the good news is, as a woman, your urethra is quite short compared to a man. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
Mm.
yeah.
So they sent me home with meds and
Yeah, and
living
in the
the
meantime,
dream.
you're peeing into a sieve trying to catch it.
Yeah,
I'm not even
Jesus.
doing that anymore. I'm like, whatever,
Oh, no,
like,
you're over
whatever.
it.
I just keep
I'm
thinking
over.
about like
I'm over the kidney stone.
what did people do before morphine and stuff, right? Like
Oh,
this stuff would
those
have
were some
happened.
hard people, man. They
Jesus.
experienced some serious. I mean, think about dental work as well back in the day when
Oh
oh
yeah.
god. Like,
Dentistry
I
is a
know, it's
nightmare.
crazy. It's crazy
no,
the pain your
no, thank
body can
you.
cause you. And I was just living my
Hmm.
life, Woke up in the morning like any other day, had no idea. And
So
then
basically, if,
whammo.
Zab starts breaking a sweat and keels over during this episode, we're
We're
gonna
like,
stop.
and that's a wrap for right now. Return.
I'll be
Okay,
like,
let's hope that
ladies,
doesn't happen.
call an ambulance. No, it's not. We're good. We're
Yeah.
good. We're good. Good. Look at
I
me.
love it.
Look like a
Kind of
million bucks.
sucks.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, so Kori, we have to make us all unpacked. If she falls off a chair, we're gonna have to be like, okay, you leave the call, call 911. We need to do we even know where you are, Zab? You're recording somewhere where we don't know.
We know she's a Denison Designs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
exactly. Oh my
We
gosh,
got you
it's so
covered. We
funny.
got it.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. It's all good,
All right. Well,
But a true
hold in
All
there,
right.
testament
Zab.
to when you look at somebody, you do not know what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you guys hadn't
Totally.
have
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
that, nobody would know what I'm going through. So you don't know. You can't judge a book
And look at
by
you turned
the
out
cover.
so beautifully.
Thank you.
Yeah. No matter what,
Yes,
she looks glamorous.
yes. Me and my kidney stone are like turning out the looks today.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Wait,
should name
it's
her.
like the compensation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'll call the kidney stone the razzle dazzle. The razzle
The
dazzle
Oh
razzle
my
stone.
God, that's
dazzle.
amazing.
Love it.
I have a friend that a teacher, and the angrier she is with the students, the more she dresses up. So I always warn the students that have her, oh no, if she's wearing high heels and like a skirt or
You're in
something to work,
trouble.
you are in so much trouble. Like, do
I love
not.
it.
Because she just comes
Love
and
it.
she gets more and more power suit, like red lipstick. She gets her hair done up, jewelry, and you're like, oh, heads are gonna
Love it.
roll today. So, this is you. Your kidney stone is like,
That's
let's
funny.
really
Yeah.
flamboyant ourselves.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Love it.
Oh, yes. So funny.
All
Love
right.
it.
Well, let's dive in.
All right.
So, welcome
Hey.
back to another installment of Murder of Crones, the podcast where three Gen X women talk about living life in a patriarchy through a feminist lens, one episode at a time. And I'm your host, Kori,
And I'm Jen.
And I'm Sabrina.
and we're all accounted for and present. Well, mostly
Woo.
present. We'll see how Sam
Plus a
does with
kidney
that
stone.
kidney stone. Yeah, plus a kidney stone. Special guest tonight.
Basil.
Okay, so tonight, we are bringing you part 2 of our deep dive into diet culture, where we peel back the layers of social control that have kept people of all genders in a decades-long war with our bodies. In part 1, we explored the evolution of diet culture from the flapper era's reducing salons and introduction to cigarettes as appetite suppressants to the 1950s Canadian Food Guide. We looked at grapefruit diets, the ultra-thin ideal of Twiggy in the 1960s, and the rise of Weight Watchers. The 80s brought home workouts with Richard Simmons and Jane Fonda, followed by the 90s heroin chic look and slim fat shakes. Let's not forget the slim fast replacement meals.
Yeah.
And then the 2000s, I introduced paleo, intermittent fasting, and then the rebranding of diet as a wellness lifestyle. And by the 2010s, social media had taken over, and wellness influencers became the face of body control. But today, we're taking it right up to the present moment. So this episode is about what happens when diet culture continues to go digital, medical, and moral. We're talking about Ozempic, GLP-1s, wellness, and the struggle for authentic body positivity. So get comfy, put on your stretchy pants, grab yourself a bevy, and let's get down to it.
Yeah. Nobody needs to tell me to put on my stretchy pants always. Like, it's always pants off o'clock when I get home from work.
So what do you guys think? I like it. Off kilter, on point. I like it. Guys, what does that mean? No, seriously, what does it mean?
All right. So let's set the stage for the 2020s, marked by pandemic panic.
Yeah.
It's funny how I've kind of blocked out the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it was interesting reading into this and doing a little bit of research because I've kind of been like, oh, I'm over it, right?
Yeah. But it's also this weird little bubble,
But-
right?
Yeah, a very traumatizing bubble. It's all going to show up sooner or later. Anyways, so the 2020s marked by pandemic panic, social media overload, and extremes of hyper-focus and denial. Lockdowns disrupted daily life and people were stuck at home. Routines vanished, gyms closed, and boredom or anxiety led to increased snacking and less movement. Headlines about quarantine weight gain exploded, and once again, weight became health obsession. Shifts in sleep, reduced daylight exposure, more screen time, and remote work all impacted circadian rhythms, diet, and well-being. While some people gained weight, others became hyper-focused on eating clean. A 2020 study by UCell and UCell found that while people reported trying to eat healthier during COVID-19, this effort often became obsessive. The researchers noted a rise in orthorexia, an unhealthy fixation on eating pure or unhealthy foods, especially among those consuming more pandemic-related content online. So the message was clear through social media. If you weren't using this time to optimize your body, you were failing. So ladies, what were your health scenarios during the pandemic? Were you guys on the camp of I'm putting on the pandemic pounds and I'm just going to eat my emotions and boredom? Or were you on the health train? What did it look for you
I
guys?
have to say I spent the COVID situation with my daughter and my husband, and my daughter and I spent a lot of time on our deck eating nachos and smoking weed. But we also bought a puppy.
I love it.
Yeah,
Right.
we bought a
Oh, right.
Yeah.
puppy, and so we were training the dog, and that was like my focus. I don't believe I gained weight during the pandemic, but I remember everyone talking about the COVID-10. And I remember seeing a lot of people once we were
Yeah.
out of lockdown and just noticing that a lot of people had gained weight, not in a judgy way, but just in a, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense, you know? But for me, I was out in
Yeah.
nature a lot. I was walking my
Yeah.
dog, training my dog, and that's really the focus. And like I said, I was on my deck playing guitar, singing, smoking reefers, and eating nachos.
Actually sounds like a good time to me.
It was.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, why does
Yes.
COVID have to end? This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, I was a bit the same. Like I had a puppy as well. I got Winnie during the pandemic, and yeah, I don't know. For me, the dogs and the horses, right? Like if I can get out and I don't have to, like I did have to do schoolwork, right? I was teaching from home, but it definitely, like was chunks of the day, right? So I could run my classes, get my classwork posted online,
Yeah.
and then I could go out, take the dogs for a walk, or go to the barn and visit the horses, and then come back. So I didn't notice the COVID-10. I don't think I lost weight.
Mhm.
I don't think I gained weight. I think I was out more, like Zab, like I was out more and doing stuff with my animals, and yeah, was very much like this doesn't have to end. This is pretty gravy. Like,
Yeah. But then we're lucky, right?
yeah, oh, for sure. Like super privileged, because also I was in a job where I was getting paid and I was still at home. So that was huge. And then my husband, because he works in a primary industry, he's a machinist. He works with forestry a lot. That was carrying on for the most part. So his job carried on. So we actually, for us, and that's a really, really privileged situation.
I also mean just like in living in a place where we have like somewhere to walk
Oh, yeah.
outdoors all the time. Like if you were in a
Yeah.
city, it'd be very difficult to, have the space to get out the way that we did, I think.
Yeah, no, that's totally true too. Yeah, like we were able to walk, exercise regularly. Like even my barn, it's a very low population. There's borders, but there's not a whole bunch of us, and it's a pretty big open space. So we were never in a situation where we were in closed rooms with other people when we didn't, like, if we didn't have to be, other than like grocery shopping or something. So it was easy to control our exposure to the virus with some degree. Yeah, I didn't experience the COVID-10, but yeah, it's also mental health plays a huge thing, right? So like being able to get outside, exercise,
Yeah.
maintain some
Yeah.
community, like having family at home, being able to go out on the deck and hang out with your daughter
Yeah, that's
is
huge.
yeah, it's huge, right? And that's the same. I had my kids were
Yeah.
still at home. So I actually had Oscar and his girlfriend at the time were living here for the first like 3 months of the pandemic. And then she finally
Yeah.
went back home to live at her place, but she was here for quite a while.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You had a full
We're
house.
busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Kori?
Well, it's funny. I started off the pandemic, I'm pretty darn sure, with COVID. I was incredibly
Oh,
violently ill. I was in university at the time, and one of my profs, I met with her just before the outbreak happened, and she had been traveling abroad and was incredibly sick and on the tail end of it. And then I got knocked off my ass sick. I've never been that sick in my life. I was so sick. I was living alone. My partner and I weren't living together at the time. And so for the first, like literally month, I was so out of touch with what was going on because I was sick. I was just unplugged.
Yeah,
Sort of
you're living
came
in
out
your
of
own
that,
space.
living in my own space, came out of that, did have a puppy as well. So that was a great outlet. But I totally went G.I. Jane. I'm like, what the fuck is going on in the world? I am taking this opportunity. I loved the lockdown. I was like exercising, eating healthy. I was killing my school. I was working remotely too, but I went for it. I jumped on a regime and I did do some eliminating in my foods, and I got really militant around it, and it carried on for quite some time. I dropped 30 pounds.
Wow.
It was great.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was the most fit that I'd been in, forever. So interesting. And I think
Yeah.
we learned a lot about ourselves, how we responded to that level of stress. And I remember doing check-ins, Zoom check-ins for work. And there was so many people just respectively falling apart, like just so wigged out by what was happening. And I'm like, I'm having a great time.
Hmm. I know, and
Yeah, it was interesting.
mental health plays such a huge role in how we like the way we choose to fixate on our diets or whether or not we're able to get
Yeah.
ourselves up off the couch, whether or not we're diving into the cheesies, your mental well-being and your feeling of security in the world, right? I think for a lot of people too, that's that reasonable response to like, um, there's a health crisis. I'm going to take care of myself and be as healthy as I can, especially if you've been sick. Like
Yeah.
my neighbor was also, I'm pretty sure she
Yeah.
had COVID and she was in her 70s. She lives alone. I thought she was going to die. I was calling
Yeah.
the hospital and they were like, no, she can't come in. And I'm like, no, she's not breathing, right? Like she's not breathing well. She is going to die.
Oh,
And it was
that's
really
so
scary
sad.
for a little bit. Like she's fine. She made it through,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was scary. And so like I think that especially when you've been sick, right? That impulse
Hmm.
to get healthy, get strong,
Yeah.
be on top of it is I think
For
a pretty
sure.
natural
And
drive.
yeah, I think like taking a rest from being in the chaos of our everyday life, there was something really wonderful about that, but let's not downplay either how terrifying of a time that was. It was
Oh,
super scary. It was
absolutely.
full of uncertainty. We didn't know what was going on. Every time we looked online, remember, like at first you had to watch everything, like as soon as it came in your house.
Oh,
There was
for
all
sure.
this like
For sure.
crazy
Yeah.
stuff going on where you didn't know who to believe, what was true, what wasn't true, to vaccinate, to not vaccinate. I mean,
Mhm.
it was crazy. So I just want to say, like, there was some really wonderful pieces where we could spend more time with our family or loved ones or focus on ourselves when we hadn't done that for a long time. But I don't want to downplay the trauma involved in that for all of us.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
and as we get into this episode, we'll just see, the impacts did lean towards the COVID-10 and people just that kinda melting under the pressure of the unknowns
Hmm.
and succumbing
Hmm.
to mental health and eating disorders,
Yeah.
so let's continue on. So, during the pandemic and leading up to now really, a number of popular clean eating and wellness trends came into play. So we saw the rise of plant-based foods and a focus on ethical sourcing and sustainability. This included meat alternatives and dairy alternatives. Remember the Beyond Meat burgers when they hit the scene?
Oh
Hmm.
my gosh,
Which,
those are
in
so good.
fairness, have lower saturated fats, are high in fiber, you know, they do have their they do have their appeal, but there was a huge focus on the plant-based foods. Immune boosting diets and supplements, well, no kidding, right? People were, like,
Yeah.
downing the vitamin D, C, and zinc, turmeric shots and elderberry syrup, mushroom powders, etcetera. But we had the home-based trends like sourdough bread making and whole food obsession.
Forgot
So
about
there
that.
was a rise in making everything from scratch, creating
Yeah.
comfort foods and avoiding anything processed. It was a hobby for some, but for others, it became a moral benchmark for being good or healthy.
Oh my gosh, I got to tell
Hmm.
you guys, that was another thing I was doing during COVID. I went all raw and I cut like a crazy person and I
Okay.
learned how to cook like these beautiful raw and vegan foods. And that's what I was doing as another thing to entertain myself, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect opportunity to hyperfocus, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, clean eating diets without processed foods, high in nutrient rich and whole foods. Food transparency was a big thing that entered
Hmm.
since 2020 on. So, labeling, identifying minimal processing and ingredients we recognize and we know. So, people really started to pay attention to what is in our food. Social media, of course, weighed in. Wow, what a huge influence. We're all locked
Yeah.
down or we're all stuck in our little bubbles and people were on their devices, right? Influencers were showcasing their restrictive plant-based ultra clean diets or whatever it was. We saw everybody making their krauts and their breads, etc. And it really was a prompt and not a prompt, I guess a impetus for triggering disordered eating in a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the biohacking and wellness tracking. So biohacking to enhance your body's resiliency. So think like Wim Hof. So cold water
Hmm.
immersion, or the
Oh, yeah.
alternate with heat and saunas. And then wellness tracking, of course, we're familiar with the devices, the Fitbits, the what have you, wearables to maximize routines, tracking calories, circadian rhythms to establish better sleeps, monitoring heart rates, and how many steps we took every day. I think that was huge. I think
Mm-hmm.
the wellness tracking became and still is, such a huge thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's when I got my Fitbit,
Yeah, same.
I have an
eh,
Aura ring. I
right
got an
around then.
Aura ring
Yeah.
after COVID, actually, but no, not right around then. I think after COVID. But I think most people have some sort of wellness tracking device. I mean, they're great, really.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or if not, they use their phones. Again, great if you keep them in perspective.
Yeah. I know. I know.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Like I remember being in, like I took a bunch of students to Spain. And, the 3 teachers that we were all on the trip had our fitness trackers. But there was, so like in Europe, when you go to Europe, if anybody's gone, that you're walking everywhere, right? It's a very walking centered cities and stuff like that, basically all over Europe. And so we were getting a lot of steps in, but then we'd also have conversely like these huge long bus rides that were, 3 or 4 hours on a bus, if not longer. And so at one point I
Right.
looked over and my colleague was sitting in the chair doing this on the bus. And I'm just like, you do know that doesn't count,
Yep.
right? I mean, you're getting your steps, but you're not actually getting your steps, right? Like this is not actually. And it was so funny
Yeah.
because he was like, he
That's
couldn't
funny.
handle it. Because he's also a very fit guy, very like, super, super active. And so I think for him sitting on a bus and getting the reading that he's only got, 5,000 steps that day was like killing him. And so he'd like shake his wrist. And I'm like, it's telling you that because you've been sedentary for a while. You're still sedentary. You're just shaking your arm, but you haven't fixed the problem.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Funny.
One of my coworkers, she would get up and jog on the spot, like literally just stand up and start jogging to get those steps in before the hour was out.
But I mean, at
That's
least that is
dedication.
full body.
Yeah.
That is full body workout, right? Like I'm like, that
Totally.
counts.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of wild that
Yeah.
like our little wristwatches are telling us that, like jog on spot for 5 minutes and we do it. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys on social media, do you guys follow the pelvic floor lady? She's like a tyrant on the social media. She just comes across my screen and hold and release and pulse. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, okay, I've got to do my pelvic floor exercises all of a sudden. I like just do it every time I see her. I'm like, okay, I'm doing my pelvic floor exercises. And I'm like, what a genius hack, right? She just comes across your screen and this drop and give me 20. I'd be like, oh, okay. As soon as my screen tells me to do it, I'm like, yes, I will do it.
My ex-bosses, she had this app on her phone that made water sound, like a water coming through a water cooler sound every time it was time to have a drink. And honest to God, we'd be sitting in like a team meeting. Her phone would go off, her little app would go off, and we'd all pick up our water and it was great.
That's kind of
Kept us all
genius. I know.
hydrated.
I mean, in some ways, like it's crazy to think that we're being controlled by our devices, but also how smart, right? To have these little things,
Yeah.
that just remind us to keep healthy as long as it doesn't become obsessive, right?
Yeah. So the fallout, it was devastating, especially for girls from the pandemic. So hospitalization for eating disorders among Canadian girls aged 10 to 17 increased by 60% during the pandemic.
What?
Isn't that crazy? Increased
I
from
had no idea.
60% during the pandemic. That's
Wow.
according to the Canadian Pediatric Surveillance Program from 2020. And another 2024 study called Pandemic Stringency Measures and Hospital Admission for Eating Disorders. And I'm telling you the name of the study because I cannot pronounce the name of the author. Anyways, this study showed that every 10% increase in lockdown stringency, right? So every time the lockdown became more stringent, provinces saw a 5 to 11% spike in eating disorders hospitalizations. So
Wow.
the more stress, the more fear, the eating
Yep.
disorders amplified.
Yeah,
And was
that
that
makes
because
total
people are
sense.
eating their emotions?
Disordered eating is a mental health situation, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's usually about control, right? So if you feel out of control.
Yep.
But also I wonder too, especially with those young girls, obviously there's a correlation between the stress and the environment. It's not only that, but I'm wondering too how many of them might have been already struggling with disordered eating, and all of a sudden when they're
For
not at
sure.
school, like you notice more, right? Like you start to see like, what have you eaten today?
Yeah.
What did you have for lunch? Whereas in school, like, because I see, especially teenage girls, they make some crazy choices for their meals, and I'm like, hmm.
Mhm.
So when you're home with mom and dad,
Mhm.
it's harder to hide, right?
Yeah, good point.
But I mean, that's not
For sure,
obviously not
for
the
sure.
entirety of the picture, right? There's more going on.
So pre-existing conditions. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So a little look at pandemic eating habits. So this is from a Quebec public health report from 2021, which found that 75% of adults cooked more from scratch. So that's a bonus, right?
Yeah, that's good.
40% reported snacking more. That makes sense. Sitting
Hmm.
on the deck, smoking weed, eating nachos. 30% increased junk food intake. So that makes sense as well. It's
Yeah.
like, again, emotional eating.
Yep.
And 25% ate more fruits and vegetables. So that's good. So those are the people who are like, okay, let's do the healthy bit here, right? So
Yeah.
it was a mixed bag, of course. So on the topic of disordered eating, orthorexia took kind of a center stage within eating
Yeah.
disorders during the pandemic and afterwards. So we
That's
touched on orthorexia in part one, and I couldn't believe I hadn't heard of it before, but it made
yeah.
absolute sense. It's just not something that had crossed my path before, but I
Yeah.
recognize I was guilty of it during the pandemic for sure and
Maybe
continue.
define it again, Corey, for people who
Yeah,
haven't.
excellent suggestions, App. So let's define it. Orthorexia nervosa is an unhealthy obsession with eating foods perceived as pure or healthy. It's less about calories and more about purity and rigid rules. The current term was coined in 1997 by Dr. Stephen Bretman, and it literally means correct appetite.
Hmm.
So, not to be confused with anorexia, which is usually about quantity, orthorexia is about quality, but is still like super controlling. And it's
Yeah.
important to know that orthorexia is not officially in the DSM yet, but researchers are pushing for it, especially as its impact grows. And that's according to McComb and Mills 2019. Orthorexia is hard to discern as the lines can easily become blurred with clean eating and is well
Hmm.
known. Clean eating is celebrated and praised. So it's
Yeah.
like, when does the line of healthy eating cross over into disordered eating? Do you guys have a sense of that? Like, what are your guesses? What are you thinking?
I think it's when eating something unhealthy becomes a fear. Like you're terrified to put something in your body that isn't pure and whole. And if you do, it gives you tremendous anxiety. That's what
Yeah.
I would imagine because I've seen that, and even in my own family, just the fear of what that might do to you, uh, intense guilt after eating something that
Yeah.
isn't pure, healthy, whole food based. Yeah, it becomes an obsession to only
Yeah.
eat that way. And if you can't eat that way, it becomes anxiety provoking.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
I see a
Exactly.
lot of that correlation between the moralistic aspect of it, right? As soon as we label something, it equates with being a good person or being a better person that you are caring. Tied into good eating is healthy husbandry of animals and environmental stewardship. Like those things are connected. The choices we make in our grocery store
Yeah. Yeah.
are seen as choices we're making for the globe as well, for bigger picture. So there are layers of that, and the moralistic tones really affect it. But like you're right, Zab, like I see it in my own family too. It's not surprising to me how common it is, because anybody who cares about their body and cares about being healthy and cares about the environment is going to dip
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
healthy eating. And it's just, when does that become a problem, right? And like you say, like if it becomes a fixation, if it becomes
Exactly.
guilt induced, right? It is a hard one, because on the one hand you
Yeah.
think that's good. You're taking good care of your body, but if it becomes too anxiety inducing or guilt inducing to eat something, to just
Yeah.
indulge, just to eat like a normal person, right?
Yeah, the moral piece is huge. So I pulled from Eating Disorders Victoria webpage some of the symptoms which identify orthorexia, and the purity, high standards in the diet, moralization of the food as good and bad. Yeah, you nailed it there, Jen. The heightened self-esteem when eating the ascribed healthy foods, that's an
Yeah.
indicator. Like if that attributes to your sense of like self-worth beyond reason, beyond reasonable, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Um an an intense preoccupation with rigid dietary rules and restrictions when you cannot, you will
Yeah.
not And, there's that kind of ties into a judgment of what other people are doing. So your standards and rules around food to agree they impact your daily life and social life functionings. For example, you're going to avoid situations where food and drink are encompassed if you know that you can't control and the quality or your standards around it cannot be met within that scenario. So there's an avoidance there, or even disassociating for people who do not align with your health eating standards. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's an interesting, like, separating yourself from people. We see that in the political sphere right now, like people who don't have the same political ideology, and we don't don't want to associate with those people. But that's an interesting one with food, because as soon as you add the morals to it,
Yeah.
are you taking care of the environment? Are you taking care of the world? Do you care about the well-being of animals?
yeah,
That becomes a whole,
yeah.
are you actually a good person? Are you somebody I want to associate with? That's a wild thought.
Yeah.
I didn't really
Yeah.
make that connection.
It becomes a judgment.
It sure
Mhm.
does. Yeah, the idea of food snobbery, and I know a couple people actually right now who I'm pretty sure have orthorexia, and it's interesting, the 2 people I'm thinking about, I hope they don't listen to the podcast, when we go out, I know they will not eat, and they're very specific about what they'll drink, and there's always a tension. It's
Mhm.
uncomfortable for people also who are with them, and it's, like, unspoken, right? But there's just this discomfort where 'cause then you automatically think you're being judged too for what you are
Yeah.
consuming, so, yeah, it's
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah.
So here's a provocative quote from a wellness writer named Rena Raphael, and she says, quote, "Wellness sells women the idea that if we can just eat the right things, we can control everything, our health, our aging, our worth."
Mhm.
I thought that was, like, that's pretty dead on. I think that
Yeah.
is the discourse we are
Yeah.
you know, I guess we subscribe to a certain degree, right?
Yeah. I think, like, for me, the aging piece really resonates, right? I get a lot of, are you drinking enough water? Are you, eating these because you want to keep your skin elasticity? You want to keep, like, you don't want to have too much sun damage. All of this stuff is tied into how we're aging and how we look, which is again tied into, like, the female beauty has to be equated with our value and our worth. And so at aging, we
Yeah. Just the
Yeah.
already are
patriarchal ageism.
decreasing in value. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's a way to control your decreasing value.
But I was thinking too, with this wellness approach to diet culture, so wellness and lifestyle, it's really quite ingenious in that the industry's perspective on moralizing food opens the doors for all genders and even ages.
Yeah.
It's no longer this real hard focus on feminine, on women. It's this more all-encompassing sweep of, even children. Not that children are obsessing on it, but we are obsessing on it for our children, right?
Yeah. Well, and I would be
Mhm.
interested to see, like, the rise in eating disorders among men. It's always existed. Men also experience disordered eating, of
Yeah,
course. But I
yeah,
would think in the last 10 to 15 years, it's probably skyrocketed the numbers. I know so many more men that really fixate on their diets, which maybe I was blind to it
yeah,
before, but
yeah,
it seems like an increase. And I think this is what you're talking about. The targeting is no longer directed specifically towards women. It's because it's health, it's, wellness, it's whatever, and so that's not gender specific.
yeah,
Well, yeah, it's history
exactly.
repeating itself, right? It's just like when the tobacco industry decided, you know what, we're missing a whole demographic. Let's get women in on the plan, right? And they started getting
And
supermodels,
then
or not
children.
supermodels, but actors to smoke. And now I
Mhm.
think the health industry has done the same thing with internet and the globalization of everything. So they can market it to everyone instead of just one particular audience, make more money, right? Makes sense.
The one thing that does remains is it's still pretty classist. Oftentimes to afford the level of nutrition that this demands, that's an expense that a lot of people under the middle class line, if we
Yeah.
had a middle class, would not
Yeah.
be able to afford, right? So it
Yeah.
still remains a
Yeah.
classist thing, right? Okay, so now we're going to move into the body positivity movement.
Mm.
What began in the 60s and 70s as radical fat activism led by
Mm.
Black, queer, and disabled activists got mainstreamed in 2010s, and by the 2020s, it became a marketing campaign. Shocking.
Of course.
Yeah, so what do you guys think about body positivity? Like, what does that mean to you? How would you
Mhm.
depict body positivity?
For me, at first, it felt like this was all like really positive, and I was like, "Oh, this is great." People looking at themselves in more healthy, positive viewpoints, and but then it started getting twisted. Like if you weren't feeling positive all the time, you were looked down
Yeah.
on for not being all happy all the time and upbeat and having a good vibe. And people are like, "Oh, we don't want to talk about the negative stuff. We have to be positive all the time." And it started getting really unhealthy because things became completely unbalanced because there's nothing
Mm.
wrong with feeling sad or feeling down. But that became really taboo to talk about, which is so intensely unhealthy because then people are just
So
pushing all that down, you know?
so, like,
Mhm.
sad or down about your body, like,
Yeah.
unhappy with piece of right, right. So keeping it real.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I,
Mm,
I think that's right. I felt like it was really good when it was like all bodies are beautiful, just love the skin you're in kind of
Yeah.
situations, which I'm saying those and I think those are all commercial taglines. So like
Dove.
just,
It was Dove.
yeah, I know, right?
yeah.
Dove.
But I mean, I think overall
That was
that's a much,
exciting.
it's a much healthier message,
Yeah.
right? We need to see it in advertising. And I will say that I have seen more from Dove about body diversity than I've seen in a
Mhm.
lot of other advertising campaigns where they actually kind of walked the walk a little bit and had bigger bodies that were modeling and showcasing it. And people with different racial identities and people with I'm saying
Yeah.
I want to say skin disorders, but even just things that aren't necessarily skin
Yes.
disorders, like alopecia, right? Like
Birthmarks.
something that
Yeah.
is an irregularity that we're not used to seeing in our advertising. And I appreciate that. I think that is really healthy and helpful, even if it is a money making campaign and there's an artifice to it. I still would rather see diversity in the artifice than uniformity,
Mhm.
that we only
For
ever
Yes.
sure.
see these like skinny, blonde white women that are advertising for us. I would really rather see that. And so I think overall it's probably, I feel like it's probably been good, but I think you're right, Zab. You're not allowed to talk badly about yourself. You're not allowed to think bad thoughts about yourself. You're not allowed to like wake up and just hate your body some days. And I just think the toxic positivity piece, right? It's
Mhm.
okay. Like there are always days when we get up and we're like, oh, and you just don't like, you don't feel great. You're not looking your best. You're just like, "Bleh,"
Oh, for sure.
and
And
Yeah.
especially being a woman, like, the reality is we do bloat.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
during menstrual cycles, our pants get tighter, and
Hmm.
I mean, it was like clockwork where I would feel fat. All of a sudden, I
Hmm.
would think I was disgusting and feel fat. So, yeah, I mean, the reality is we cannot be positive all the time about our bodies.
No, not with our emotional fluctuations, you
Yeah.
know?
That's what
Yep.
I was going to say.
Yep.
Like our hormones play into that too, right? Like not only
Yeah.
are we
Yep.
actually physically bloating, but then we have our hormone cycle that is like, how about you have a good cry right now? And then you're just, and then you've got the world being
Yeah.
like, be positive, love yourself. And you're like, I just want to eat ice cream and die.
I think, like everything, though, that's part of how the discourse got contorted. So
Hmm.
body
Mhm.
positivity is about self-acceptance, like
Yeah.
bottom line. Like, self-acceptance for one's own body and concentrating on more than what it looks like. It's what it can do for you, its functionality, the reality of it.
Hmm.
Well, and it's about just loving yourself no matter where you're at. Like I love myself today,
Yeah.
Yeah.
even though I'm hating on
Yeah,
myself. I still love me,
exactly.
but I don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
feel secure today. I don't feel at my best. I'm not feeling comfortable in my own skin, but that doesn't mean that I don't love me. It just means
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
know that I need to be gentle with myself. Maybe today is a day to lay on the couch and, eat Doritos and watch
Hmm.
Netflix, and that's okay. I
Yeah.
still love myself, right? Like accepting all those
Yeah.
pieces of yourself instead of being angry at yourself for not loving yourself every minute of every day. That's so
Yeah.
unhealthy. Yeah.
I also like I was just going to say the aspect of access to activities that we don't usually allow if you're not the right body type. I
Yeah.
love seeing larger bodies that are beautifully dancing, or I mean, even not beautifully dancing, like just go dance, move. It's so beautiful. And it brings a huge smile to my face to see somebody posting videos of themselves dancing and they're not a dancer's body in what we would typically think of, but
Mhm.
it's like
Yeah.
your body works, your
Mhm.
body functions. And coming from a family that's deep into gymnastics, there's a body type for that. There's a very specific
Yeah.
body type for that. So I love seeing people being athletic, doing things that go against the mold of what what would be the standard body type for that. And because you see that you're like, oh no, that's kind of a preconceived judgment that we've decided that these bodies are suited for these certain activities. And if you're not one of those bodies, you don't get to do that. You don't get to engage with that sport. And that doesn't necessarily mean you can't. You could do it and be really good at it. So that
Absolutely.
for me, I really like.
You know, it's
Yeah,
interesting. I don't feel a sense of acceptance where I live right now, Vancouver Island, around body positivity. So I was born in Ontario, in Southern Ontario, and I grew up as a minority, as a Caucasian person in the area I grew up in. By the time I was a teenager, that was that way. And I've lived on the island for 20 years now. But one of my youngest daughter was going to Carleton, so we got her to Carleton. And it's not that I don't go to Ontario all the time, but being in the scenario I was in, it was Ottawa, so really multicultural. And it just brought home how cookie cutter it is in certain parts of Canada. And I felt so comfortable, so excited to see all these like round bodies, all these different colored bodies, like tall, short, just the incredible variety that was there. And it was just such a breath of fresh air. And I hadn't realized how constricting it is where I live right now until that moment. Like, I mean, you do, but you just get used to it. So interesting. So
I
interesting.
think that's really true. Rural communities, and especially like we are, Vancouver Island, and you're probably experiencing the same, Sabrina. Up in the Kootenays, you get isolated. They are privileged places to live, which also lend itself to a certain demographic. And I know in the school, this is one of the things we talk about all the time. We're always talking about racism, and it's really interesting because the amount of diverse students in our school, I can count on both hands, the amount of Asian kids, the amount of Black kids that we have in our school. We have a larger population of Indigenous kids in our school, but it's still like it's not, we're not a diverse school at all. We're very white. And so then it's also really hard for people to feel like what you're feeling, Kori, about just the joy of a multicultural and multifaceted city. Like I lived in Vancouver, and that was my experience growing up. I was definitely the minority in my friend group anyway. There was like 2 or 3 white kids, and the rest were from wherever, right? Like all over the place. And it was great. It just was really nice and interesting and diverse. And there were new immigrants, and there were people that were second and third generation. Yeah, my kids don't have that experience. And it's it is a different thing. We are very restricted, right?
Sure.
Well, all said and done, the body positivity movement was also meant to promote a holistic view of well-being, so including mental health, social health, spiritual health, etc., which it just sounds beautiful, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, the deal was to challenge societal norms and media's unrealistic portrayal. We know this has been sidelined, however. Think of the quote, image of body positivity, and what we see today. That looks very different than what we were just talking about. We're seeing images of full-figure women, sure, usually nothing like above size 16, but full-figured women, but they still have this incredible hourglass figure.
Yeah, they're cherry picked.
And augmented and AI'd and stuff. Like they've got these big butts. They got the ass thing going on right now, but they're just like cellulite free and like it's just body positivity's morphed into this really bizarre thing that is almost alien to body positivity now. You know what I mean? Like it's just this, So where original fat liberation movement and body positivity said you don't have to shrink to be worthy, now it's like, okay, yeah, love yourself, but you still need to have tone arms and you still need to make sure that, your skin's flawless and this and that. And then we're going to use AI and touch it all up, right? So
body positivity looks like the Kardashians and Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, which is not for the most part real bodies anyway. But then also, I don't think we allow body positivity for skinny people as much, right? It is, I think, safer to be an overweight person, a larger body, than to be a skinny, as in you have no butt, no boobs, no waist, like you are just a skinny rail of a person.
They still don't fall into the ideal.
Yeah, then you're also, I shouldn't say more dangerous, because of course, like I think on either spectrum, you're running into trouble and you're getting judged regardless of how much we say body positivity. But I think it's really hard. We have this idea that people who are thin and lack curves either are starving themselves and we judge them for being disordered in their eating, which is not necessarily true, especially now we have to focus on curves and roundness and hourglass.
Yeah.
And so we're
Yeah.
celebrating bigger bodies, which is great. But again, only bigger
Mhm.
bodies that fit into the specific category of like
Absolutely.
the skinny waist, the big butt, the
Which
big
is
boobs.
completely unrealistic.
Yeah.
Completely unrealistic.
Oh yeah. Most bigger
Yeah.
bodies, I mean,
There's no way.
that's not how that
Yeah.
shape goes, right? That's not how that works usually.
It's
So
like
No.
when Barbie was created, there's no way Barbie first of all, could stand up, but like she couldn't menstruate. Like there was no way her
yeah.
organs could. And we're kind of back to that, although we've just thrown 40 pounds on the hips and the ass and filled out it's like the same but different.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's still artificial, right?
And it's still trying to make people look a certain way that most people will never look. And that's the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
problem
Bottom
with
line.
it. That's not body positivity. That's once again these cookie cutter shapes of how people need to look. They should look exactly
Yeah.
like that, or it's not good enough. And then people go and they get
Yeah.
augmented and, to try and
Mhm.
look like something that even with augmentation, they're not going to ever look like, It's just
Yeah.
setting people up to not love themselves.
Yeah, we still strive to meet up to this collective of media images and ideals around beauty that, again, are just not even realistic. So
Mhm.
this brings me to Serena Williams.
Oh.
There's this like perfect storm with Serena Williams and GLP-1s. Serena Williams is now a public ambassador for GLP-1 weight loss medications via the company Ro, which
Mm.
offers products like Zepbound and Wegovy, among others. And firstly, a disclaimer, like I just want to say that, and I think I can speak up for the three of us, that to each their own, right? Like people,
Mhm.
whatever you need to do to be okay in this world, whatever you need to do to meet your marks and be happy and live the life you need to do. I mean, people choose their own paths.
Yeah.
No disrespect to people's choices. Again, my beef is like societal standards and the expectations that are, often unrealistic. So just a little disclaimer there. So Serena Williams has long been at the center of conversations around beauty, race, gender, and athleticism. As a Black woman with a powerful muscular body, she faced a lifetime of navigating Eurocentric beauty standards that often excluded bodies like hers. While her sister Venus's body type aligned more with what society celebrates, Serena has spoken about the challenges and the pride of embracing her strength and visibility. So you guys are familiar with the Williams sisters, tennis players. They've been around for 20 years or so,
Mhm.
both Black women. So after having children, Serena shared her struggle to return to her previous levels of fitness, which included her typical hacks. I mean, she did all her training, she did all the things she does to get in shape. Ultimately, she chose to use a GLP-1 weight loss medication, framing it not as vanity, but as a healthcare decision, one she researched deeply. This decision has sparked both support and critique. No doubt,
Mhm.
right? Supporters see her transparency as destigmatizing medical weight management, especially for women who've tried everything else. Critics worry it reinforces thinness as the ultimate goal, feeding into diet culture and leaving behind those who can't afford or access such medications. So, yeah, it's like, what a bold statement or what a bold move for her to jump on board. And not only, I mean, I've watched a number of celebrities um, come clean right off the bat. Like I am using a
Yeah.
GLP-1. This is
Can
what
you
I'm
tell me what
doing.
a
I've dealt with
GLP-1 is? I don't know what that is.
like Ozempic. It's the medicalization of weight control, right?
Mm.
So it's that class of medications used, originally developed, I should say, for diabetes.
So Ozempic is a brand of that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Ozempic's probably the best known.
Yeah. Ozempic's really common. I know
Yeah.
several people that use Ozempic, and some of them use it for medical reasons. I think that it was designed to do, which is like blood sugar control, right? It's
Diet,
Yeah.
supposed to, for pre-diabetic people, it's supposed to help your insulin levels and stuff. And it's hard because now those friends that are on Ozempic for their medical needs feel really ashamed and embarrassed because they don't want people to know they're on Ozempic, because they don't want people to think they're doing it for vanity. And it is a really hard thing. But I mean, I do believe too that that's an interesting statement. Like I appreciate the transparency of it. Like I appreciate athletes being like, hey, I'm taking a drug. there is the popularization and broad acceptance that follows that. Like if somebody that's famous is doing it, then it must be okay, and other people will follow suit.
Yeah.
Where it could be a medical decision that she's making with consultation with doctors and nutritionists and whatever, for her own personal body needs, or it could be ones that she's just making because she's a public figure and she has an image to uphold, and it's become very, very difficult, right? And I think
Yeah.
either one is valid, but it is a risky precedent to set. But I do appreciate the transparency of it. Like it feels
Yeah.
better to know than that, like, oh, look at her, she can do it. And like there's all these women who were super fit and have children and then have a really hard time getting their bodies back to the state they were before the children. That's just
For
a
sure.
reality for
Is
most
she
of us,
getting
right?
paid
That's a
to endorse
reality.
that though? Do we know?
I imagine there's some sort of,
I would imagine
yeah,
so.
I imagine. But I mean, that's generally the way it goes, right? The pressure around getting one's body back to a certain level,
Hmm.
like certain standard after having babies is ridiculous.
Yeah.
How low? Think about what happens to that body.
Yeah.
I mean, we could never be the size we were in grade 10. Like that just doesn't make sense. Most women can't. Our bodies spread, things shift.
But that's the obsession of staying young forever, right? And not embracing
Yeah.
that, we just created a life and we are portals of life. And therefore, when we go through that, it's actually a transition. And it's okay
Yeah.
in that transition to have your body transform and be different. But unfortunately, in the society we live in, there's still a really strong pull to look like you did when you were a teenager. It's very
Yeah.
unfair
I think it also
to women.
comes back to the social capital, our highest value item that we bring to
Yeah.
any situation is our looks. I'm not saying that that's the way it should be. I'm just saying in the society that we live in, that is the social capital we can maneuver, right? So if we lose that, we are losing status, we're losing power, we're losing influence, we're losing acceptance, right? There's so many losses attached to that because we can't, like you say, Zab, beautifully, it is a transformation. Having children fundamentally transforms your body. And there's you
Yeah.
can't undo that, right? You can't undo that. It's just like fighting aging. Like, and what we talk about, when we're together is like, I see that little tag I see sometimes on social media where they say, I can't be 20 anymore. I've done that. I can't be young anymore. I've already done that. So now I have to do this,
Yeah.
right? This is what I'm going to do. And I think that's the thing. There's no going backwards, right? You have to just sort of embrace where
Yeah.
you're at. And I think that fight to stay young and look young, I understand it because we do stand to lose a lot, but it's a society that doesn't recognize the
For sure.
value in older women. And so we can either fight to be recognized or we can fight to maintain our previous value and status. And it's hard.
We have the right to get older. And I think the
Yeah.
more women that choose to embrace getting older and love their fucking life, love their life, love the
Yeah.
skin they're in, the more that people that show up, women show up and say, you know what, I don't want to be 20. I want to be 52. Like I worked hard to get here and
Yeah.
I'm fucking proud I'm still here, and I don't want to look
Yeah.
20 anymore. And I love myself and I think I'm beautiful. And I think the two of you are beautiful. And I'm not saying that people who choose to
Right.
stay looking 20 forever aren't beautiful in
Yeah.
their own right. But I think the more women that embrace just being themselves, the more that we can sit in our power and be strong
Yeah.
and support one
Yeah.
another in that.
For sure.
So important.
So, as we're diving in here, there are a lot of challenges with Serena Williams' choice in becoming the spokesperson for Roe, which is the company, not the actual drug, but the company. So we can look at the autonomy and agency. So she's claiming control of her body, which is a power for any woman. So way to go. Like this is what I am. This is what I'm doing. And she does frame her use of the GLP-1 as not yielding to societal pressure, but as a considered health decision after other methods provided insufficient results. So, she is saying, I've tried. I've worked my ass off to make this work, but it's
Yeah.
not. So this is what I'm going to do to get what I need. And a lot of it is around her body has functioned a certain way for a long time. She's also an athlete, so she's also had a lot of wear and tear on her body. So, maintaining a weight also helps her maintain a level of health and agility
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. So, way to go for that. Considering intersectionality, Serena's experience isn't just about gender, it's about race, as we touched on, is
Yeah.
visibility and how Black women's bodies are judged differently by media, coaches, and society. She's often been undervalued and underpaid, and her strong, muscular body hasn't always been celebrated. Her story shows how race, gender, and body type all overlap to show how people are treated. Intersectional feminism reminds us that the conversation about beauty and body image must also consider how these issues are influenced by race and gender.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
complicated.
I think to be the level of athlete that she is requires so much like personal strength and like your will, your determination, your discipline. When she says she's tried really hard, I'm very inclined to believe that. That was a really, really big struggle. But I also know like
For sure.
external judgment, we tend to, or not like the collective we, right? Not me personally, but like I think it is a common way to discount the efforts of a Black woman, that she's maybe lacking the
Yeah.
discipline or what have you. They
Yeah.
tend to just discount their pain, their efforts, their intelligence. Like it's a continual theme, right? So it makes me believe her even more that she has tried very hard, because this must have been a very difficult decision for her to make, to go public, because she knows she's going to get the judgment. She knows she's going to get the
Oh, hell
criticism.
yeah.
She had to have really thought this through. She is such a public figure. She can't just quietly, make a decision like this for her own personal well-being and her own personal preference. So yeah, I think you're right to really bring up the intersectionality, because being a Black woman definitely has to impact her choice in this, and the struggle of that decision for her, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, huge.
I just
Yeah.
find it confusing because to me, if you're exercising to that extent, it doesn't make sense to me that you wouldn't lose the weight and be muscular and
If she has like a blood sugar imbalance, right, which is what like those Ozempic and those drugs were initially made for, like it's entirely possible that that is actually something that
but that's not how she's promoting it,
was
is it?
a
She's
biochemical
not.
need.
It isn't, though. No, it is as
That's
a
not how
weight
she's
loss drug.
promoting it. It's weight loss. So that
So,
makes me really
yeah.
question this
Yeah.
whole thing, because I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute. If she was a diabetic and she was using it for that reason, that's a totally different scenario than for weight loss. And if you're super athletic, weight is not going to be a problem if you had a kid or not. So I don't know enough about it, but I'm just saying that's not tracking for me.
Yeah.
Sorry, Serena Williams. I've got questions.
These GLP-1s used to be predominantly prescribed off-label for weight loss, but that's not the case anymore. I think now most of them are directed at weight loss. Like it's not about
Yeah.
the diabetes. It's
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's mostly weight loss.
this is also a rebranding in a sense. Like, way to go,
Yeah.
Ro, whoever Ro is, this pharmaceutical company, for onboarding someone like her. Like, smart
Yeah.
picking a woman of color, smart picking an athlete,
Yeah.
a mother. Like, she's gone through hell being a Black woman in the public eye, scrutinized for her body forever. So, it's also a big fuck you to society for her to be, picking up this role. So yeah, super interesting. And again, ultimately, to each their own. But I mean, the responsibility in coming forth and saying, yes, I back up this medicalization of diet culture, that's pretty intense. It's a big one.
Like I said, I've got questions.
I think there's things we don't understand about the way our body works and the way our hormones affect things, and we talked about birth being
Metabolism.
transformative. And I'm not excusing the piece where, yes, medicalizing diet culture is a whole other, that's a whole other game. I'm just saying I am willing to cut some slack with the fact that maybe for her,
Absolutely.
she might have maybe not needed it, but
This was maybe
it
her
was
last resort.
yeah, it was a little edge. And also like the public scrutiny she's under to look a certain way. If she, I don't really blame her if she has a way to get there. It's the promoting it for the public that is the scary piece, right? Because of course, like
Exactly.
she has access to
That's a
all of the top
big step.
healthcare.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. I would love to go on GLP-1. I mean, it would be so
Yeah.
easy, but
Yeah.
the repercussions of it and the unknowns of it are just too high a risk. And I'm not a pharmaceutical person.
It's just such a patriarchal distortion. Like, it's a distortion of what beauty is. Like, skinny doesn't mean beautiful. It's so fucked up, dudes. Listen to this. I have friends, including you, Kori, that are full figured. And you guys are so sexy and so beautiful. And I think that even more than anything, it's about how you carry yourself. Thinking of my friend Alyssa, she is a bodacious babe. Like, she is this like gorgeous, dark-haired indigenous woman. She's full figured. She dresses gorgeous, and she's got a style and a flair and a confidence. And she walks in the room and you're like, who is this? Like, she is fucking incredible. And it has everything to do with how she loves herself, how she cares for herself, how she carries herself when she's in a room. I think women need to remember that you can get to 100 pounds, but if you're not confident and you don't love yourself, people are going to see that. And it's going to make you seem less than. If you are someone who is morbidly obese and you love yourself and you walk in a room with confidence and you're, just a good person, a good balanced human being, that carries through. People feel that. They want to be around you. Like, I think that's what we need to get back to, right? Let's get away from this. I got to look
And
a certain way to be loved.
I think we also have to remember that, we aren't individuals. I'm full or figured, but I'm not big. And I
was just gonna say
have
that.
a friend who is a bigger woman. For example, she just had a flight somewhere and she has to ask for a seatbelt extender. And so, yes, she's confident. Yes, she has her own, style. She's got her own kavorka going on. But the world we live in and our society, our constructs, our systems keep reminding her, keep putting her in positions where it's like, oh no, she's got to wedge herself in this tiny, unrealistically small airplane seat and have to ask for a seatbelt. Like, there's a level of humility there as well that,
Well, of
so
course.
I hear what you're saying, but it's not easy. And,
No, it's not easy. But what
I
I'm
think for
saying
bigger
is we
body
need to get
people,
to
they
that. We need to
constantly
try to
get
get
challenged.
back to that. We need to get back to loving all
That
bodies, to
is a
understanding
goal.
all bodies are beautiful. We need to
Yeah.
get back to that as a society instead of judging people because we want them to look a certain way. It's okay if you want to look a certain way, but let other people do their thing.
For sure.
It's that piece that I'm talking about. I'm not saying it's easy not to fit in
The
mold.
misunderstanding that like the assumption that skinny bodies are healthy too, right? Like, I know a lot of bigger bodies and bigger people that eat really well and take really good care of themselves, and they work out and all of that stuff, and skinny people that eat garbage, right? It's not necessarily an indication of health. But you're right, Kori. Like, I think that's such a good point that there's so many ways in which the world reminds larger people that they don't fit in.
So, okay, so we're not done with the GLP-1s. I just want to give a little bit of a breakdown on how they work. So what they do, so again, GLP-1s are these pharmaceutical medications that have been designed originally to deal with type 2 diabetes, but then found to be effective with weight loss. And what the drug does is it mimics a hormone that tells your brain you're full. It reduces your appetite and slows the stomach emptying, so it often results in quite rapid weight loss. And as I mentioned, some brands, there's only, I think, a brand that's still prescribed off-label. Otherwise, they've all been specifically used now for weight loss, prescribed for weight loss, advertised for weight loss now. Yeah, I think, I don't know what the time frame was, but I think with Serena Williams, she lost like 31 pounds on it. One of my coworkers has lost over 50 pounds on it. Like, it's amazing. It really is amazing, the quick weight loss that can happen. And for people who have struggled forever to try and keep the pounds off. So,
and especially if it's a health concern, if your weight is becoming a health concern.
Yeah.
If you stop taking it, the weight comes back on, correct?
Yeah.
So you've got to
stop
take it
taking
indefinitely.
And we know how that goes.
Yeah.
So we know how that goes with any diet we do. And I think that's the thing. Are people fully aware of what they're committing to?
Yeah. Can you imagine giving yourself an injection once a week forever?
I think they
Yeah.
have pills now too, right? Like it's not always injections. I'm not sure, but I think.
Most of them are injections. I think there's one that you can get in pill form, but
Mm,
they find the efficacy of it isn't as great
okay.
as the
Yeah, that
injectables.
makes sense.
So GLP-1s, including Ozempic, are generally well tolerated for many people and have strong benefits, including improved glucose control, weight loss, reduced cardiovascular events in some populations. However, they are not without risks. The main side effects are gastrointestinal, so nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. I know people every time they get their
Hmm.
shot, it's like
Yeah.
clockwork. A couple days later, this is what they go through. And that's especially common in the early usage of it. I know someone who's been using it 7 years and still gets
God.
those symptoms. Less common but serious side effects include pancreatitis, gallbladder disease, potential retinopathy, which is a disease of or damage to the retina, sometimes worsening in diabetics, the retina piece, possible risks like thyroid cell tumors. Now, again, there haven't been the lengthy studies, and some of these studies, like with the thyroid cell tumors, are based on animal data, not human. So
Right.
there's so much unknown. A couple of the side effects are muscle wasting. So again, with the rapid loss of weight, you're going to have muscle wasting. So there's something called like the Ozempic butt, which imagine like a balloon deflating. So your butt
God.
loses the firmness and the structure. So yeah. So,
Yeah.
and then there's Ozempic face. So common features are like darkness or gauntness around the eyes, hollow cheeks, hollow temples, deep hollows around the mouth, draping skin, jowls, wrinkles around the neck. Like it's a lot. And then, of course, when again, typically the demographic using this is more affluent people, it
Mm.
leads to, of course, other corrective
Yeah.
measures
Surgeries. Yeah.
like cosmetic
Yeah.
surgeries, right?
I mean, is it any different? Is it any different than when you think like I could see it being possibly prescribed to someone who is like morbidly obese? Because you think about the health risks of that, right? Then I wonder if that would be a good idea because the
Okay.
Yeah.
risks of Ozempic are less than the risks of being morbidly obese because we talk about
Mm.
getting the what is it when they go in and they like tie your
Oh,
stomach
the
or they
stomach surgeries.
stomach
Yeah.
stapling or what, you know what I mean? Like that's so
Yeah.
risky for someone who's morbidly obese because they have to be put under
Yeah.
anesthetic. So I wonder
Yeah.
then if Ozempic has a place in that demographic. But I could really, really question someone who's, only 20 or 30 pounds overweight, when
Mhm.
we think about the risks and the benefits. But the problem
Mhm.
Yeah.
is, I guess, is we don't really know, like we know the risks that Kori's named, but there could be a lot of other risks that we
Yeah.
don't know about. So
I
that's
was
where,
I was gonna say in 10 years, we're gonna have a lot more
mm,
data
yeah,
because it's been probably 10 years that it's been a fairly mainstream tool for
mhm,
weight loss, probably more, but where we're starting to see it
yeah,
en masse with massive numbers, and it's
yeah,
getting
Yeah.
more. The uptake in the last 5 years has been huge. In 10 another 10, 15 years, we're gonna have people that have been on Ozempic for 20 years, and we're gonna see what the health outcomes are.
Yeah.
I hope it's not bad.
I know
Yeah.
that's the thing is
The worry.
I hope the worst thing you have is some sunken cheekbones and stuff, right? And like an
Yeah.
Oh,
Ozempic ass, but
Knock on wood.
I'm doubtful.
And I think the big piece is, when considering use, individuals and their physicians need to weigh out the risks. And I think there
yeah,
needs to be like candid, honest conversation, informative conversation to make that decision. Because as we said, like once you're on them, you're on them. Once you
Yeah,
stop, that weight's just going to come back and
yeah,
create a whole new slew of health issues as well.
yeah. Unless you've changed your diet, unless you've been on it and you've completely changed
But it's
everything.
a hormone and it tricks your brain and it tricks your
yeah,
body. So as soon as you're off that, your body doesn't have the tolerance and then the cravings come back, the desire to eat
yeah.
comes back.
The friend that's on it that's really struggling, she's on it for medical reasons. Pre-diabetic and was really struggling and was running into some dangerous territory health-wise. And she wasn't really overweight, a little, maybe had some extra pounds, but it wasn't really a weight loss thing. But it was one of those nice perks, right? That she went on it
Yeah,
and had some weight loss and was feeling really good about herself, but then was really struggling with, I don't want to be on this for the rest of my life. And she felt like
Yeah.
she was taking a diet pill and she kept trying to go off of it. And her doctor was like, if you have high blood pressure, you stay on your high blood pressure medication. You don't just go off it. This is a medical like
Condition.
diagnosis that you are taking this
Yeah.
pill or you're taking the shot because of a medical need, an imbalance in your body, and you can't just stop taking it. But she's really struggling because she doesn't want to be on it for the rest of her life. And I think there's a lot of internal judgment that she's having right now. It's a complex thing. She's very happy to be losing the weight. She's happy with that aspect of it. And then it feels like she's taking it for
Sure.
vanity, even though she's taking it for
Sure.
her own health, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Mhm.
complicated thing,
Yeah.
right?
It is complicated. I
For
mean,
sure.
I understand in a perfect world, it would be good for people and it would just help people lose weight
Yeah.
and it would be wonderful, right? But I am always a little suspicious. That's all I got to say about big pharma
Oh,
and
for
how much
sure. Yeah.
testing has been done.
Well, as soon
So
as there's
this,
profits to be made,
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
So this is a nice segue into uncertainties and gaps in knowledge. So I'm just going to list off some of the things that one should consider. So longer term effects beyond a few years have not been studied. So there are trials for like 1 to 2 years, but effects, between 5 and 10 years, there isn't the data there, especially when you're looking at different ethnicities and age groups. We don't have that information yet. And the effects in non-diabetic populations in general, like we just don't
yeah.
know. Again, they were designed specifically for, and that's where the research really laid, was in the type 2 diabetes efficacy. So there's rare side effects, and because rare side effects are low frequency, detecting them reliably requires very large sample sizes and post-market surveillance. So, for instance, the risk of thyroid cancer in humans is not yet established. They looked at it within the animals, but not within, again, lack of data, right? Effects related to rapid weight loss. So rapid weight loss itself can lead to gallbladder disease, nutritional deficiencies, electrolyte imbalances, to name a few things. So teasing out what is due to medication versus weight change versus other behavior is super complex. So again, all these unknowns.
Yeah.
Psychological, behavioral, and social side effects are less well studied. So how drug use affects eating behavior, relationship with food, psychological well-being, possible stigmatization, or pressure to maintain the loss is, I imagine that's huge, like the psychological impact. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so it's just so many things. And there's tons of ethical concerns. Again, back to this piece around the commodification of our bodies, especially women's often get treated like products, and GPL-1 drugs are marketed as quick fixes, selling not just health, but beauty, transformation, and desirability. Health becomes something you buy, and those with money have more access to those solutions.
Right. Because they're not covered under medical if you're not a diabetic, correct?
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that stands today. I think things are shifting there a bit, again, because they no longer are sold off-label, like they are now marketed for weight loss. So I imagine the coverage has changed, and that's
Yeah.
sort of a
That's a
newer
good
thing,
point.
right? Yeah. So I think accessibility is getting better, but regardless, it's probably something like in BC, our medical services plan will not cover. And maybe who knows, maybe if you're a morbidly obese person, it does. I don't know. That probably there's a special
Yeah.
acceptance for that,
I
right?
wonder
But
about that too, right? Like, I don't know how I feel about that being covered for someone who's 20 or 30 pounds overweight, them getting that for the rest of their life and our
yeah,
tax dollars paying for all that. Like, that seems to me
yeah,
really excessive. I think that,
yeah,
pharmaceuticals that are necessary should be what our tax dollars are covering, not a luxury of
yeah.
losing weight. I'd be happy for our tax dollars to cover someone who was morbidly obese and had health issues and needed it, of course. But if it's just a
Yeah.
vanity thing, no,
Yeah. Well,
that
that's it.
doesn't sit well with me.
I think the
Yeah.
other thing too, we have to be cautious of. It's a slippery slope, right? When we decide what we consider to be medically necessary. Is the birth control pill medically necessary, or is that vanity? Like, there's condoms. We can use other things. Like, there
Mhm.
are. When do we decide what, or do we let the government decide
Good
what they
question.
consider to be medically necessary?
Mhm.
Why are
Like,
condoms not
there are,
covered? That's an interesting,
but you
right?
can
Like,
go to almost any health unit and
You
get
can get
like
free
handfuls of
condoms
free
for sure.
condoms. Like, we give them out
Yeah.
at the
That's true.
school, like by the buckets,
Yeah.
right? So there's access to free condoms if you don't have any. I mean,
Right.
yeah, they probably should be covered because they're also
Yeah.
very, unlike the pill, they prevent sexually transmitted diseases
Yeah, absolutely. They should be
and
covered for that
infections.
because it's preventative, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it should. I mean, why aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because we talk about obesity being a burden on our health system, that it is a situation where those obese bodies tend to have more health problems. So then
Yeah.
do we argue that it is preventative to maintain, if they maintain better health? Is it cheaper to keep them on Ozempic than to face whatever potential health
True.
outcomes they might be facing in the future? It's hard because there's a moral
Yeah.
question
Yeah.
there, and I don't have
Yeah.
the answer. And I think there are never tidy answers for these. Like at some point we have to
No.
make a judgment call.
Like if someone's only 30, say someone's 30 pounds overweight, say that someone is a man that's 30 pounds overweight, but he's 6'3", that's not that much overweight. But if you're looking at a woman,
Yeah.
say who's 5 feet and petite and she's 30 pounds overweight,
Yeah.
then she could be categorized. So yeah, I mean, because bodies are different, it would be really hard to
And that
decide.
man that's 6'3" could have a long family history of heart attack and stroke. And in which case, if we have cardiovascular risk involved, weight plays a factor in that, right? Your weight. And it's not the only thing, of course, like there are thin people that have cardiovascular health issues as well. But
Yeah.
that would be an argument for, even though it's not so much about the weight, it's about heart
Yeah.
health or
Yeah.
whatever. Like there's
Yeah.
factors that, I mean, which again, I just want a doctor to be supervising people that are taking this.
Yeah.
Having
Yeah.
a doctor, whether or not it's covered, having a doctor that knows you're taking it, that is prescribing it
And knows your health history.
and
So that,
following you.
so it
Yeah.
would be like ethically prescribing it is what I'd like to see.
Wouldn't that be
Right?
And I
nice?
think also, as we learn more,
Mhm.
the ethics of that might change, right? Like as we learn about the risks, as they do more research into it. I mean, this is the beautiful thing about science, is that like we only have the information that we have today, but in 10 years
Yeah.
we'll have
Yeah.
different information about this. And so then
Yeah.
our policies and our ethics around that need to change in reflection of what we
It's
now
so
know.
hard because
Mhm.
typically that comes at like the breaking point, right? Where,
Yeah.
okay, the damage is now done, the fallout is there, and oh, okay, well, now let's
Yeah.
put some safeguards around this. I wish I had more confidence in the system than that, but I don't.
I know. And it's easy to be jaded. So hard.
Oh, for sure. Well, and I work in healthcare, so I'm allowed, right?
Well, and how,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I see what goes on.
without having like a massive focus group, there is no way to know
Yeah.
the end result,
Yeah,
right?
no.
Like it's almost like you have to test it to a certain point, and then people do become the people you're experimenting on. The first group, the first
Yeah.
people that take it for the first 10, 20 years, they are the experiment. But that's really how science kind of works, right? Until it's tested on humans, which is scary for sure.
Yeah, so
That
there's
Yeah.
so many risks involved, right? One of the other moral, ethical things that I wanted to point out, and there's just so many. I mean, we could talk for hours about this, but around serious mental health concerns. So marketing often targets insecurities,
Yeah.
like body shame and low self-esteem, which can harm vulnerable groups, including people with a history of disordered eating. There's one study that found people with high body shame were more likely to want these drugs. Go figure, suggesting that
Yeah.
emotional distress is exploited. So, yeah, there is a
Yeah.
exploitation of people who are just dying to quote unquote fit in, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how much more accessible is a prescription than mental health support? Like paying for a psychotherapist or a psychologist.
So readily available.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
super
But I really
expensive. Like
question
mental
that,
health is
though.
rarely covered. Yeah. But I mean, like most,
Oh,
like
yeah.
even insurance plans.
Just because you're skinnier doesn't mean your mental health is better. Then your obsession will just change. So, oh, I've got saggy skin now. I need to get that taken off. And I got this.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that.
But if you're struggling with disordered eating, and then you don't have access to mental health, because like when I go to see my therapist, it's $270 an hour, like and I have a portion of it is covered through my benefits, but not much, right? And I'm in a privileged position to be able to afford to go to a therapist like that, but that's not accessible for the vast majority of people. So yeah, you're right, it's not going to fix it, but
Yeah.
it is going to make things like a band-aid solution, right? And then of course, like at the end, they're still not going to have the mental health support that they need. But
I
Yeah.
know,
Kori, you
right?
just
Yeah.
went
Ugh.
into ombre
I
shades.
know. We've been
I
on here
know.
so long that my lights are burning out, or batteries are dying, I should say.
It's like, I just can't.
Exactly. Let's keep moving. Yeah, so we can't ignore the bigger picture here, right? So pharmaceutical companies are an industry. It's about money. It's about
Mhm.
capitalism. Well-being is a completely separate issue that has been turned into this really ugly thing, as we're seeing with the shift from diet culture into wellness and lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So the bigger picture, we blame individuals for weight, ignoring systemic causes like poverty, racism, food access. And this lets the system off the hook as well, right? So
Yeah,
I- it's
that's a good
all
point.
kind of like instant gratification, really.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? Where do we go from here, ladies? We know that diets fail, not because we fail, but because they're designed that way. We know shame doesn't heal, it wounds. And we know that weight is not a measure of worth or even our health. So what does real liberating body outlook and health look like?
When I think of that, I think of the blue zones. If anyone knows about the blue zones, they're places in the world that have been studied where people live the longest. And you can watch YouTube videos. It's super interesting. It's all about incorporating exercise in your everyday life, eating whole food, living in community, having strong social connections. It's about drinking
Yeah.
lots of water, just looking at being like a really well-rounded kind of holistic, healthy life. That to me, what it's all about. And community has so much to do with that. Feeling isolated, alone, not embraced. It has so much to do with mental health and eating our feelings and not exercising, not moving, all those pieces. That's what I think of.
Yeah, I know. I think the macro, right? Like what you're talking about, the macro picture instead of the micro, like all of this wellness, diet culture, body image is micro, right? You're trying to isolate a portion of the human existence and fix that to fix the whole. Whereas it's the nest you're feathering, right? You have to figure out, like, what is your nest that you're living in? And that's your lived environment. Do you have walkable spaces? Do you have clean air? Do you have clean water? Do you have community and support? Do you have access to whole foods? Do you have,
Yeah.
like all of the pieces? Are you able to exercise? That big picture is what makes a healthy person, right? And we try to like give a pill. That's not going to do it. That doesn't fix all of the things.
Yeah, we're looking at little tiny micro pieces of everything instead of looking at us as a society and what we need to do as a whole collectively just to live well, to be healthy. It's so important to look at the big picture.
I think one of the biggest pieces for well-being in a person is a sense of purpose as well. I think when we don't feel,
Yeah.
as you're saying, connected, that we have a reason to be here, nothing else matters. I think
Yep.
I see that in my work so much, where that seems to be like the golden link to all these other pieces that contribute to health,
Yeah.
right?
I would totally agree with that.
So I'm going to throw out some ideas. So one of them is body neutrality. So not forcing yourself to love yourself every day. And Zab, you nailed this earlier on, but simply choosing to stop waging war on yourself. Like, know that you have those bloated, uncomfortable, you feel fat, that's fine, whatever. You look fat, whatever. But just like, it's not so much about the positivity, but just the reality of it, like keeping it real, the neutrality. Somebody say it for me. Neutrality of it.
Neutrality.
Thank
The
you.
neutrality.
Rolled off your tongue.
Yeah, like I'll get up in the morning and I'll be like, I feel fat today, but I love myself. Like that's my kind of way that I look at stuff like that. I don't feel like I look pretty today, but I still love myself, like that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So there's a movement called health at every size. So it's rooted in science and equity. It means shifting focus from appearance to action, nourishing ourselves, moving in ways that feel good, getting rest, managing stress, building meaningful connections, and a holistic approach to self. So that's awesome. We nailed all that. So that's, a movement called health at every size. And there's another movement called joyful movement, which means reclaiming exercise from punishment, moving your body not because you have to burn it off, but because it feels like freedom. So I think, Jen, you were talking about the bigger body dancing. Feels like freedom. It feels like pleasure, like coming home to yourself. So really getting into your body and enjoying, what your body offers.
For sure, because I know so many people who have worked out excessively and they've burnt out their joints. They're in pain all the
For
time
sure.
now at our age, right? So for any young viewers out there that are listening to this, incorporating exercise into what you do in your day as opposed to hitting the gym excessively all the time. You've got to preserve your body. It's got a long ways to go if you live till you're 90 or 100. So you also have to think about the longevity of what you're doing, and make sure you're not injuring yourself by working out so hard. It's important.
So another big piece is rejecting moral labels around food. Like, just enough. Food is food. Get rid of the good food, bad food. It's just food that fuels. There's food that comforts. There's food that connects us. And there's food that sustains us. And just, taking guilt out of food, which is a deep one. That is such a
that's a
deep
hard
conditioning for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And lastly, most of all, collective care, creating culture where people of all sizes, races, genders, and abilities have access to respectful, compassionate health care, where health isn't a luxury or a beauty standard, but it's a human right. And that is something I feel so passionate about, because I see the discrepancy there.
Yeah.
What a ride, eh?
Wow, it's a big topic because there's so
absolutely.
many little avenues that factor into it,
Absolutely.
right? A little bit like what you were saying, Zab, about community. For me, food is emotional. Food is, and I don't mean psychological so much as, like, there are foods that I eat because this was what my mom used to make, and this is a comfort food. And
Cultural.
is it the healthiest for me? I don't know. That's not the issue. The thing that I'm eating is the comfort, the nurturing, the warmth, the connection to my family, the connection to my heritage. Right. There's pieces there that I think are deeply, deeply important in spite of their nutritional value. And that's a bigger picture.
I got to say,
Absolutely.
I make food for my 89-year-old friend, and she always talks about how beneficial the food I make her is because of the love and intention I put in it. I, of course, use quality ingredients for her, but she's like, beyond that, she's like, I know you make these because you love me. And that feeds the soul.
Yeah.
It's so true. You can use your whatever processed cheeses and whatever it is, like a home cooked meal made with love and with heart and with family. I think that fuels us in a way that science can't describe, right? We can't dissect. And just because we can't dissect it doesn't mean it's not real.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, shall we wrap it up? Thank you all for listening. We really appreciate you guys tuning in, and make sure to follow us. You can find us on YouTube, subscribe. Well, you're probably watching us on YouTube or not. Maybe you're listening to us on various other podcasts.
Don't miss our stunning
venues.
faces, guys.
Yeah,
know,
and you
right?
can follow us on social medias too. We're on
if
it
you're
all. We're
curious
on it
what we
all.
look like. Yeah. And I'd like to thank Denison Design for letting me use this beautiful space. Denison Design is a full interior design studio specializing in custom millwork and finishes. If you're looking to renovate, build, or simply update your cushions, they've got everything you need. They're located in Vancouver and Castlegar, BC. And in Castlegar, they also have a gorgeous storefront, which is what I'm sitting in right now. If you want to check them out, which I highly recommend you do, you can look them up at www.denisondesign.com. Thanks everyone for listening. We appreciate all of you so much.
Yep. All right. Love you guys.
Remember to like and follow, please. Thank you so much. Until next time.
Subscribe. Bye.
Love you both,
Bye.
girls.